What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Mental Corner podcast, the show where I bring on guests from all different backgrounds to talk all the things mental health. I'm your host, Harry Potvin, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Trevor Tyson. Trevor is a mental health advocate and the host of the podcast Trevor Talks, where he interviews guests about their stories of passion chasing, overcoming adversity, and finding their path to true happiness. Trevor was so fun to talk to, and I want to thank him again for coming on and having this discussion with me. Now, before we get into the show today, guys, this episode is sponsored by Aunt Bertha. So if you listened to the last episode, you already know that I love what Aunt Bertha is doing. They're basically the leading referral platform for social services in America, connecting people seeking help and the verified social care providers that serve them with dignity and ease. They make it super easy for people to find social services in their communities, for nonprofits to coordinate their efforts, and for organizations to integrate social care into the work that they already do. Their huge platform is used in industries such as education, healthcare, and more. For the entire month of May, they joined the National Movement for Mental Health Awareness Month to work to destigmatize mental illness. Additionally, they continue to publish mental health resources on their website findhelp.org, which is a free resource directory online where anyone can search at any time for free and connect with services in their area. Also, Aunt Bertha is focusing its efforts into an upcoming webinar where leaders in the child and mental health space will be brought together. Participants of this webinar will learn about current and upcoming resources across the state of New Hampshire, hear from organizations who provide support, and will be able to discuss policies that support people with mental illness and their families. I said it before and I'll say it again. I love what the people over at Aunt Bertha are doing. And whether you're in the New Hampshire area or not, I think it would be very beneficial for you guys to check out the links. I'm going to put them all down below. Big shout out to the people at Aunt Bertha. I love what they're doing over there. Now, before we get started on this episode, guys, you know the drill. If you're listening, please like, comment, share, subscribe, give 5 stars if you're on that podcast platform. Share with someone who might want to hear this episode. It's a really great one, and I can't wait for you to listen. I'll talk to you all very soon. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Trevor, thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Dude, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to get to speak with you and your amazing community today, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome, man. Yeah, so before we get too deep into anything, I wanted to get to know you a little bit better. So, what kind of got you started on this whole journey of advocacy and podcasting?
Man, that's such a long form answer that I could go into, but it really started for me when I was like 14 or 15. I was like, dang, I want to be on stage. I went to an event called Winter Jam and I saw like all the lights and cameras and cool musicians, and they had an MC, and I was like, I want to be like that. And so I started chasing that and interning with the guy that was on stage, and it was a crazy time for me. But fast forward 2 years later, promoting on the road for an event that was coming up on the National Mall in DC, I started having panic attacks, man, like just one after the other, and it took me out of the game for 2 to 3 years.
Mm,
So when I realized, I needed to go through therapy and all of that good stuff, I was like, if I get to the other side of this, I'm going to walk people through it. I have
mm.
the drive, the ambition, the story. If I can get through this and get to the other side of this, I want to help people get through it. So once I did get through it, I realized, I really love to have conversations. I love to shine light on important topics and help people through that rough spot that I went through. So that's kind of where the passion was birthed, from me going through it myself and wanting to walk people through it, even as I go through it still. It's not like a one and done, you're fixed type thing. I just have to walk through it and trust that there's a greater purpose for all the pain and everything that I've been through, and know that there's other people that are in that same boat that need to hear this message.
Yeah, man, that's so awesome. So, you said that you started getting panic attacks like a couple years after that. So you were like 16, 17?
Yeah, I was a senior
And
in high school.
wow, and when you were going through that, because I feel like my story is fairly similar to yours, but when you were 16 to 17, did you know that what you were experiencing was a panic attack?
No, I went from one day being able to speak on a stage in front of 20,000 people to not, like, I was still in high school, to coming back to school and not being able to give a presentation in front of 20 people in my class. I didn't know it was anxiety. I kind of hinted around with it, but I also was in a state of I'm not struggling with anxiety. I'm not crazy. I'm not this, I'm not that, and just kind of
Mm,
the mental rat race going on. But when I got back from that first event in Alabama, I drove home. I was supposed to speak at a college the next day. I wouldn't get out of bed for like a week straight. And
wow.
that's when I kind of put two and two together that I thought I was sick. So I was just treating it as a flu. And then my dad was like, "Hey, get up. We're going to the lake." And got me out of the house. And I was able to go back to school. Still had the struggles, but just kind of knew I had to walk through it. I couldn't just hide from it. And that's where that process started. It was a rough time. And I know so many people go through the exact same thing, man. And it's something that you don't need to walk through alone. If you walk through it alone, it's kind of asking for trouble. So, not that anybody's neglecting help or anything listening. I mean, it might be, but it's
Mhm.
if you're not walking through it with somebody and you're going through it, find somebody to walk through it with you. It makes the process so much easier.
And so many of us try to go through it alone, and that, like, it's so taxing. It's just exhausting right from the get-go. You think you can handle it, and it's just it's so much nicer to just get help.
Yeah, and it saves you so much time. A question I get a lot is, do you regret not getting help right off the bat? And I don't regret how anything panned out, but I feel like I needed to go through it to really make an impact. So probably would have been smarter to get help, but of course I was 16, state of denial, didn't put two and two together. So I have no regrets, but I would definitely recommend that if you find yourself in that predicament where you're struggling, go ahead and get help. Like reach out because a lot of people go through these anxiety spells and depression and they find it as their identity and they get deeper into the tunnel and they think that that's their identity literally, not even their name. It's just anxiety or depression or suicidal thoughts, and that's how people really get hurt and or it becomes fatal. And I don't wish that on anybody. I've had about three or four people close to me that have died by suicide, and it never gets easier. So if you're struggling with suicidal thoughts today, just know that there are people out there that love you, and that's not even an answer for your issues. So
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Um, you were speaking in front of 20,000 people at 16?
yeah. And
What
it
were
was
you
like
doing?
it was more so like promoting events. So I was interning for a organization, and they had a huge event. It's going to be the largest Jesus gathering in American history on the National Mall. So it was called Together, and I was out promoting it. And it wasn't like speaking or like giving like a 30-minute speech. It was like introducing artists, 5-minute spew, kind of show hosting, which is what I do now. And that's my passion. I don't feel like I'm that dude that needs to come give your TED talk or your keynote about anything. I just like being a part of the flow of the event, being able to share my story in bits and pieces. And I feel like I can make a bigger impact in 5 minutes than in 30 minutes having to spread it out. Like you could really pack a punch if you really hone in and realize what you're doing can be impactful, especially when people don't come to shows to see the host, right? They come to
Mhm.
see the musician. So it's either going to be, man, that band was great and the host sucked, or that band was great. So my goal is not to that. I mean, I would hope that people remember what I say, but it's never like, oh, gotta outshine the band or anything. It's literally, let's make it a great experience and try to piece a message together in these 5-minute intervals in between acts. And it's super fun. It's my passion. It's my favorite thing to do. You get to meet so many cool people at these festivals and events. And that's one of my favorite things to do outside of being quarantined, right? So
Mm.
once the everything starts opening back up and it looks like concert tours are about to start happening again. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, where you're at in Canada gets through the next lockdown pretty quick to where y'all can get out and enjoy some live music. I know here in the US, we've been doing a lot of drive-in tours and stuff like that, but
Yes.
it really depends on what part of the country you're in, where I think California is pretty much still locked down. And then I'm in Nashville right now. They're starting to open back up. In Georgia, where I live, we've been opened up since the daggum thing started pretty much. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, man. Yeah, some of my favorite comedians did all drive-in shows. I was like, what a great idea.
Who are your favorite comedians?
Well, I mean, not my favorite. The people I listen to on podcasts, like I love Dave Chappelle. I know he
Yeah,
doesn't do podcasts, but
yeah.
he did some drive-ins. Joe Rogan did some drive-ins. Tom Segura did some drive-ins. Burt Kreischer, Bill Burr, they all did some. Bobby Lee hasn't gone out yet.
Bobby Lee has not gone out yet. I think he's starting to do stuff. I just saw Nate Bargatze
Mm,
and John Christ on Monday here in Nashville, and it was it's exactly what I needed to. It was just a breath of fresh air getting to see some live comedy again. When it comes to comedy podcasts, though, Bobby Lee and Whitney Cummings have taken the cake for me. Those are my
yeah,
favorite podcasts right now.
yeah, those are so good. Yeah, no, Nate Bargatze, he just had a Netflix special, right? I
Yeah,
haven't seen it yet, but
yeah,
I
I
heard
haven't
it's really
seen it
good.
either. Yeah, but he killed it. It was crazy. I was like, they don't announce who's going to be there like on Mondays at this comedy club called Zanies here in
Mm,
Nashville. They don't announce what artists are going to be there, but if you call maybe 2 hours before, they'll tell you who's on the set list. And I'm a huge John Chris fan, as well as I'd heard Nate Bargatze's name from Netflix. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to that. And it was definitely worth it. There's so many cool comedians in the Nashville scene. And there were a few other well-known ones, which I'd butcher their name if I tried because I didn't really like. I followed them on Instagram, but I don't know off the top of my head. But there's so many rising comedians coming, especially out of this pandemic. Man, so many people have had time to really venture into TikTok and Instagram and really find what they feel like their pathway is. And a lot of comedians, go through mental health as well, as we saw with Robin Williams, and a lot of comedians really struggle with depression. So it's it's really encouraging for people that struggle with mental health to be able to hear somebody that relates with them and shine light on it and etc. So I don't know if you could relate with that, but comedy was a huge part of me getting out of that mental health bubble in my life.
mm.
It helps to distract your brain, and it really just helps you almost escape the reality to where you realize that you need to get back into reality, if that makes sense.
No,
um
that yeah, yeah.
yeah, so comedy's huge for me. Love that you brought that up.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I honestly, like, no joke, comedy is like the one of the only things that has kept me sane through lockdown
Mm,
because they like yes, they take you out of reality, but they also take reality and put humor to it,
sure.
which kind of takes the heaviness away from everything just for a second. It's like almost a kind of mindfulness exercise because you kind of zone into the comedy as opposed to having your brain scatterbrained all over like, oh, the news is saying this, the news is saying that, you're panicking. But once the comedy's on, you're only focusing on that and laughing. And it's just, ugh, it's been a lifesaver.
Yeah, it's a go-to for me. I tend to listen to comedy podcasts when I'm falling asleep at night. It's a great way to end your day, and it's a great way to start your day and drive to. And even your show, like, I try to find a combination of something funny, something relatable, and something educational. Like, I want to learn something. I don't want to waste, like, not that listening to things that aren't educational waste time, but I'm a huge advocate for learning and just bettering yourself. What can I do today to better myself tomorrow? How can I scale my business, or how can I pour into people that may need the encouragement today? It's always about, for me, like, one of my love languages is acts of service. So I always want to be doing something to serve. And I find my mental health being a whole lot better when I take the time out to actually do that. So, uh, with struggling with anxiety, that was hard for me at times, like, because I didn't want to go meet new people or anything. So I would do things behind the scenes, but being able to go put a smile on somebody's face, whether it's through a podcast, through doing somebody else's show, or going out in the community and trying to make an impact, it's a huge, huge, huge thing for me. And it's been so healing, honestly. Like, you start to feel the anxiety drift away when you start caring for other people and caring about what they're going through and just loving on them. And it kind of takes you out of your own head. And it's also doing a really good thing for somebody else because you don't know what they're going through. You can go into, it doesn't matter what the income level is, the ratio of who has employment or not. Everybody has these mental health spews. So when I hear people saying that, I'm just going to target this person. It's encouraging, but it's also like, how can we progress and grow as a community and not judge people by what level of income they have, what podcasts they listen to, what school they're going to, where they work, anything like that. It's just like, how can we genuinely push the agenda to let's help better one another, love one another. And also along the way, for me personally, it's been help other people through anxiety and depression, because that's a huge thing that I've had to go through. Like, I shout it from the rooftops, like, if you're struggling with anxiety, get help. Quit hiding. If you hide behind your insecurities and your anxiety and your depression and all of these things, that's going to become your identity, and you're stronger than your symptoms. Symptoms are just that. Anxiety is anxiety. Depression is depression. They're not you. My name's Trevor. It's not anxiety. It's not depression.
Mm.
Those are things that I struggle with, but I also don't believe in the how to train your dragon method. Like, let's train your anxiety to do this. Like, no, like, it's one of those roommates you could kick out and they show up every once in a while and you just have to keep going after it. And it's not that anything is like like long term wrong with you. Is something you just have to go through. When you break up with somebody, you're gonna go through a season of being sad or maybe being really happy, depending on how the relationship went down. But it's kind of the same thing with your mental health. Like, you're gonna have seasons of being up, you're gonna have seasons of being down, but how can we keep progressing and keep growing and move past it? Let's quit talking about, oh man, I wish I would have done this differently. Let's talk about how we're going to live better tomorrow. Like, pondering on what happened yesterday is, it's good to look back and see like how far you've come, but that's it. Don't keep treading on how you could have done something differently. Like, for me in mental health, I see myself now and I'm like, daggum, like, I went from having agoraphobia and not wanting to go to the airport to being able to do it again. Like, it was a season for me, and so many people struggle with it. And even the people that are shouting from the rooftops, get help, get help, get help, sometimes they need help. So
Hmm.
reach out to the people that are encouraging you to get help too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, seriously, I that happened to me because, in this advocacy work, sometimes you kind of forget to take care of yourself. And this girl I interviewed, she was like, "Hey, are you," like when we were off air, she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I think so. Why?" She's like, "I don't know, because advocates need help too." And then when she hung up, I was like, "I really am not."
Yeah.
I was like, "I'm encouraging everyone to go get help. I haven't really gotten help in this lockdown." So it was definitely a wake up call. Yeah, the people screaming out "get help" also need help too.
Yeah. I've found myself, like, even post podcast and post being an advocate, a lot of times, like, I find myself like, I'm trying to help everybody else. Nobody wants to help me. And it's because I'm not setting myself up for that. I'm not being honest with people on how I'm going through. So, like, my whole brand right now is like, being transparent. I want to be more vulnerable with myself and then with other people. And then when it comes to client work and things that I do for my media company, it's like, how can I be more transparent in everything I do? And if you would have told me a year ago I'd be running my own company, like, I'd have told you you're dumb. Like, there was no way I can do that because I can't pitch or be in charge of like project management stuff and helping employees get to where they need to be and grow within the company. Like, none of that was on my radar. It just kind of happened. And I was like, thank you, God, for giving me this vision and mindset and the people around me to help me make it happen, because I couldn't do it all by myself. Like, I I find myself seeking more and more community versus I used to be like that person that's like, dang, I need to grow my Instagram numbers and Facebook and this and that and worrying about all that. And now it's just like, I'm not going to create content outside of podcasting. Like, we can
Mm.
build content off of that. But if I really focus on this one thing, I feel like I can make a bigger impact. And then we can go in and create content based off of what happened in an interview. So if someone's listening to this and they're like, dang, like, I really like making graphics, I don't like making captions or this and that, let your art speak for itself. If you want to start a podcast, create a podcast, create graphics and stuff around that, but don't force yourself to make content because it becomes generic and becomes useless at the end of the day. Like it can encourage one or two people and that's all it needs to do. But if you really, 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 really want to be that person that is out there making an impact, focus on one thing.
Mhm.
Multitasking is a huge thing right now. I don't get it. I
Yeah.
I personally find myself scatterbrained if I try to do more than one thing at a time. So I'll set aside times for things that are really good for me, that encourage me, and what I am passionate about at the moment.
Mhm. I think a lot of people at the beginning like to multitask just to try to, I don't know what it is because I did the same thing. You know, I had a bunch of different series on YouTube of different things I wanted to do. And then eventually you're like, I just don't have the time. Like I want to focus on podcasting instead. But
Mm,
at the beginning, you're just trying to build such a big base and you're trying to build notoriety. And then you
yeah.
just kind of burn out.
And think about Rogan. Like, if you go listen to the first Joe Rogan Experience episode, like it was terrible. It was like, oh, am I alive? Am I doing it right? Like, he worked on his craft, and now he's the biggest in the world. So, and
Hmm.
he was already famous when he started it. So, I don't know the exact statistics, but it wasn't until like the first 100 episodes until he really started getting some traction with it. So, everybody out there wanting to start a podcast and think it's going to happen overnight, I got news for you. Just
Listen,
keep trucking along, bro. It's not gonna happen overnight.
listen, Joe got his $100 million deal after like 1,600 episodes. It's like you're
Yeah.
not gonna get it after one.
No, and I just released my 41st like on Wednesday, and I'm like, dang, we're doing pretty good. And then I look at like all these other podcasts, and it's easy to find yourself getting discouraged, but then you have to
Oh,
remind yourself like you can't compare your 41st episode to somebody's 1600th. Like that's crazy. Like we all do it though. We all find ourselves like, dang, I wish I could just come up with the best blog or podcast or sell a TV show. And it's like Andrew Schultz, a comedian, grew off of YouTube, was trashing Netflix on Bobby Lee's podcast, and then he got a Netflix deal.
yep,
So it started, I think it was like either YouTube, Instagram, then Netflix, or vice versa. Somewhere within the three, he was trashing Netflix, and then Netflix uh, signed him for a special. So it was like a three-piece too, like 15 minutes, or I think it was 4 episodes, something like that. It was an hour long, but it's just crazy how your opinion and you can admit that you were wrong and you just move forward with it and people will forgive you because you are of value to them now. So just focus on your craft and what you're passionate about. And if you're struggling to get through a mental health journey or anxiety or depression, I repeat it over and over, but just focus on something that you're really passionate about. Take your mind off of what's going on in your head and try to put it into paper. Maybe journaling is a good thing for you, or having a quantum journal, or for me, my faith was a huge aspect of me overcoming it. Like, I'm personally a Christian, and when I was going through mental health and anxiety, I found reading scripture and just finding myself praying often, and that's where I found my breakthrough. And that's not to push anything on anybody, but that was an adventure I had, and it worked for me. So, can't say it'll work for everybody. I like to believe it will, but that's between the individual and however they decide to go through things. So it's it's a journey, and it's going to be different for everybody. There's no blueprint to success. There's no blueprint to get you out of depression. There's things that work for people that you can try, but you can't download an ebook on how to get out of depression and expect it to 100% work for you, because you're not that person. And that person probably wrote it trying to get downloads for something. So at the end of the day, it's just promotion. So start with yourself, start with your mind, start with taking care of yourself, try to eat a little healthier, maybe go for a 15-20 minute walk, get an animal like a dog or cat, love on them, go to the animal shelter, love on people. I would say go to the nursing home and love on some old people, but you can't do that right now.
yeah.
But just find ways to care for other people. That's my favorite pastime right now, is just finding different ways to care for people. And that's not like to shout my praises or anything. It's just that works for me, taking my mind off of what's going on in my head and try to help somebody.
Hmm. Yeah, I struggled with that for a long time. You're looking for answers and you're looking for help and you're trying to read these things that you mentioned were probably just posted for promotion, but also may not apply to you. And the entire time I'm like, I just don't get it. And it
Yeah.
made me feel more lost. Like, um, I would read things where it's like, just sit down and picture your life in 10 years. And I was like, but I want to end my life like now.
Yeah,
So
like, I'm not gonna be here in 10 years.
yeah, like I can't, I don't want to be here in 10 years.
Yeah.
So that doesn't help me.
Yeah.
So it's all about trial and error and figuring yourself out, which is like though it's so much, it's so much, it's so easy to just say that. It's another thing to actually go out and do it. Like,
Yeah.
trust me, it's brutal. It's tough.
It's so interesting too because so many of us have these seasons of just wanting to be reclusive, and then you surround yourself with one person and you're like, oh, I want to be around that person. And you just find yourself being this community advocate. It's like all I truly wanted to do was recluse back, but somebody forced their way in, and that's what broke the mold. That's how it happened for me anyway. So reclusing yourself is not going to help. It may feel like it's helping you at the moment, but I promise you, surround yourself with community. Like even if it's on Zoom or getting on what's that app called? Clubhouse.
Mm,
Like just listen to podcasts, be a part of something. The cool thing about Clubhouse is you can respond and you can talk with people, especially during a pandemic. Like if you want to love on people and you're a extrovert, find ways to be extroverted. We all have cell phones. You don't need a manager now. Like you literally do not need a manager to be an artist or be a speaker or be a podcaster. You don't need any of that. Elvis Presley needed it back in the 60s because he didn't have the internet.
hmm
I mean, Bieber kind of broke the mold for like the whole YouTube and getting signed thing. And it just get on TikTok, do something. Like find ways to express yourself and then find ways to be around people. That's my spew for the day. If you leave with anything, I don't want you going to follow me on Instagram or anything like that. I just want you to call somebody and love on them, DM somebody, text them, even if it's somebody you hate. Like maybe that's something that's keeping you up at night. Like, I wish I would have treated this relationship a little bit different. Bury the hatchet, love on them, text them, just
mm.
start building those relationships back. So many times I find myself, man, I should have handled this different. And now I handle it different. So start there, start with yourself.
Yeah. Another big thing that, I mean, I say a lot of people when I'm talking about myself, but, you know, I used to lose sleep over, the idea that someone who did me wrong didn't apologize.
Mm,
And it would keep me up at night because it would be like, how do you not see that you did me wrong? And then eventually you get to a point where you got to start like practicing forgiveness, not to like, not to help them in any way, but to kind of just get it out of your head, to kind of
sure.
let yourself go. Because not having that forgiveness there, it eats away at you. Like I remember like for months I was so pissed off at this situation that happened back in university, and it just, the people involved never really acknowledged it.
Mm.
They never really said sorry. They didn't, I doubt they even think about it. But I would lose sleep over it. It's like it's unfair to you to lose sleep over something that no one else is losing sleep over.
Especially when it doesn't have to do with your sanity. Like so oftentimes in my past and even now, like I'll find myself having a disagreement with a friend and it's like they're not thinking about this right now. I'm overthinking it. So
Mm,
again, like having a mentor or just someone that you could trust and talk to, and it doesn't even have to be a friend, go to therapy. Like betterhelp.com is what I've personally been using through the pandemic, and you can see a therapist just like we're talking right now on Zoom. Like they do it all through their software, but it's less than half the cost of original therapy, and you're seeing a licensed therapist. Like sometimes it's cool to just pay somebody that doesn't know you and can't tell anybody what you told them because you're paying them.
mhm.
Patient client confidentiality or whatever. Like sometimes that's a lot of times that's super beneficial.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think about those therapists now. I feel like the therapists now have their work cut out for them.
Phew. Dude, I mean, working remote, like, I feel like so many people, like, including myself, I'm not gonna work from a co-work office or anything like that. The pandemic showed me you don't need to do that. And, a lot of people just didn't wanna work from home, I guess, and then they were forced to, and then they realized, "Oh, I could save 700, $800 a month by just working at home and put that somewhere else and invest in your show or your craft or growing whatever you wanna do, maybe your family." And I thought it was gonna be bad on my mental health at first, but I love it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, there were kind of, I don't know if there were two ways. There were two, I guess so. There were kind of two ways that you could have gone through this pandemic. It was like you could either hone in on a craft or
Mhm.
something or anything and really skill or really improve your skill at it. Or
Yeah.
go the other way and kind of, now this is a huge generalization. And if you're in a pretty bad financial situation, then this doesn't really apply to you. But let's say you have financial security and everything. You could have either gone and improved your skill, or you could have just felt sorry for yourself and just crashed and burned.
Mm.
And it's like, it's hard. It's pretty. It's tough. It's tough to
Yeah.
go the one way without kind of slipping into the other.
Yeah, and especially here in the US, like, so many people were getting unemployment and being able to survive living at home, but, a lot of people weren't able to do that. Like, personally, I didn't have that option. I was just like, "Okay, I'm either gonna have to start a business or do something." So, I ended up working for a really cool PR and marketing agency, and then I started my own business. So, I could have spent the pandemic like trying to and complaining about for some reason not being able to do the whole unemployment thing. But I just mentally didn't have that option. I was like, I have to do something. I have to be productive. I like a challenge. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I I saw it as a challenge, like, okay, we're gonna do something different. Like, I'm not um I'm not talking down about like getting unemployment or anything. It helped a ton of people. But for me, I didn't allow myself that option. I was like, we're either going to pay the mortgage working hard somewhere or we're going to start something. And, I did a little bit of both. And now we started something and it's been the biggest breath of fresh air. A lot of people are chasing a dream job they'll never find. And for me, I realized early on that there isn't a dream job for me. So you have to create it. And it's hard, but once you do it, and I'm still aiming on doing it, but we're in a progression stage of it becoming a reality. And I'm super thankful. The mortgage is paid. I've been able to live out a dream, and it's just go time. So if you're listening and you think you have a passion for entrepreneurship and you just haven't done it yet, take this as a sign you can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I live in a town with less than 3,000 people. It's not a city or anything like that. We've got one stoplight. That's how small the town is. So if I'm doing that and being able to travel to Nashville for work and New York and all this other stuff, why can't you do it? If you
Hmm.
live in a big city, you got one up on me. Find some clients, figure out what you want to do, and you like what's the water boy? You can do it. Like just do it. Just go
Hmm.
after
Yep.
it. You just have to do it. Sometimes you have to get uncomfortable for a little while to where you can live comfortably. And I live by the position that I'd rather work like everyone else is traveling right now. I'd rather work hard right now to where I can live like everybody else is trying to live right now, to where I can afford to do it. And I'm not just going into debt, going on trips. I feel like millennials and people my age are like, I got to travel, travel, travel. And I'm just like, shoot, I'm not traveling unless I'm getting paid to travel. Like, so you don't see me out in Maui or Bermuda or anything like that. Like, I'm not going to spend, hard-earned money or go into debt and pay interest on a trip. It's the stupidest. I shouldn't say stupidest. It's a not in the cards for me. I mentally couldn't handle that. That put me in a bad mental state.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. It would feel great when you're on the trip,
Oh
and
yeah,
then
then you get back and
yeah,
you're
you'd
paying.
come back, you're like, "Oh, shit."
It's like, gosh, I just spent $4,000 to go put my feet in some sand. Should have just went to Walmart and got a bag of sand and stuck my feet in the driveway or something. Like there's so many different ways to do a vacation, and I'm not going against people that have taken that jump, but for being real, I can't do it. And if you need some inspiration, go check out Dave Ramsey. He'll tell you real quick.
Hmm.
The best. I love Financial Peace University, and his daughter Rachel Cruz has an amazing financial peace thing out. Like, and there's so many free resources. I feel like, and the reason I bring up finances is a good segue into that's a huge burden on people right now. It's a huge segue into depression and being anxious. Take care of yourself when it comes to your health and your finances. Like, I've been anxious about finances before. It's a quick way to find yourself into depression. So take care of that as well.
Yeah, yeah. That's always been a huge thing in Western civilization is the anxiety behind financial security. It's just because you just never know. And I think that well, that's a big reason why people work so hard and burn out so
Mhm.
quick is because they're so scared of falling back into that place that they just work so hard because they're like anything is better than worrying
Yeah.
about where my next meal is.
Yeah, I find myself worrying about burnout more than I am burnout. And if I get burnout, it's because I overthought being burnout, if that makes sense. I'm a
Yeah.
recovering workaholic, and I've learned a pretty good balance and the art of delegation. And that's been a huge thing for me, being able to focus on the things that really matter and not the things that I shouldn't be worried about. So yeah, like delegation and being burnout, all of these, there's so many resources out there that'll help you with burnout too. And even daily meditation's pretty cool. I've found it to be helpful, and journaling out your thoughts and things that make you anxious and affirming yourself. It's all a mental game that you have to play your cards right. And once you figure out a rhythm for you, you're set. You have to figure out that rhythm for you though. It's not going to be, I'm going to go watch a Gary Vee video or Jay Shetty or listen to a podcast and I'm going to be good. It's like, no, like, what are you going to do daily to get yourself out of this rut? And once you figure out what that is for you, I'll shout it from the rooftops yet again. Step out on the soapbox, figure it out for you, and you're good. That's it.
Hmm.
You don't have to overcomplicate it. Like, it's going to change my life. Like, no, you're just going to be able to handle things a little bit better. Right.
Yep.
So, whether that's creating a YouTube channel or writing a personal blog for you or journaling or calling your mom or your Aunt Susan, I don't know, like, do something and just keep doing trial and error until you figure out what works for you, and don't expect it to happen overnight. Just keep trucking after it. And, for me, when the pandemic started, I started a clothing brand and was shipping merch out of my house and started the podcast. And that was exactly what I needed in that season. And then now I'm doing the podcast and started a digital media agency. And I'm passionate about digital media and marketing and promoting books and movies and artists, and just being a part of someone else's story is energizing to me. And being able to, I never went to college. So, getting into this industry, which is fueled with a ton of people with bachelor's and master's and doctorates degrees, is like, you could put a dent on a multi-billion-dollar agency if you put your mind to it. I never went to college, so what's your excuse? YouTube University all day. Let's go.
Hmm.
Free resources, master classes, learn it, find a mentor, intern for free. There's no excuse at this point. We have all these resources and all this time on our hands, and especially in Canada, y'all locked down again. Get on YouTube, learn it. Get on Grammarly. They've got a free thing to where you can improve your writing, learn copywriting and social media management, become a virtual assistant. You could be your own boss, be less stressful for you too, whole lot less hours, more money. So it's a mental game, right? You have to figure that out for yourself, and you really have to realize, okay, I'm going to do this and I have no plan B. So are you willing to sleep in your car? The answer for me was yes. I was. I didn't have to, but yes, 100% was. Um, Try it, work, go a little harder, and take care of yourself mentally. eating a little bit better, just a little bit, and drinking a water instead of a Coke. Um, Help the environment. I don't know. Do something that works for you. Try it out. You know what's best for you. If you like plants, plant some plants, water them. Don't let them die. If somebody buys me a plant, thing probably be dead in 3 days. Like, that's not my cup of tea. But just find things that work for you. I feel like that would be the biggest piece of advice. Stop trying to find a blueprint to follow and make your own blueprint. And then maybe that'll help somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Just be proactive in bettering yourself, and life moves on. Depression, anxiety, all of these mental things that we struggle with are not our identity. We're stronger than our symptoms. Symptoms are just that. They're not your identity. Just realizing these simple things are repeating themselves. Write them on your mirror, set them as your phone background, something. Be vulnerable with the people around you to where they know how to relate with you and communicate with you and love on you, and just be you. Don't be afraid to be you. If somebody's shaming you for being you, you probably don't need to be around them. So just figure it out for you. It's it's not a one-stop shop. It's not a microwave. It's a crock pot. Crank that thing on low. Cook that pork till it's done.
Mm,
And once it comes out, it's a lot better than putting it in a microwave. So quit chasing a microwave and get you a crock pot. Little cooking pun.
nice. Yeah, no, and all the things you've mentioned, like that you can start small. A lot of us, especially with mental health, want to take a huge bite out of the apple. We just want like a solution quick. Like I remember going to the therapist that worked for me finally, and she was like, "What do you need me to do?" And I was like, "I need you to get me happy." And she's like, "Well, uh, it's not how this works. There's a couple different steps you got to take before you get there." And too many of us just go, "I want that happy pill that'll just solve everything." It's like, well, you got to take the baby steps. And if you look at it as a big picture thing, it can be so intimidating and will turn you off from doing the work. If you just look at it from like in like interval perspective, couple
Sure.
steps a day, couple things a day, then it's really not, it doesn't seem as intimidating. It's way more effective.
Yeah, and like you said, like everybody wants to take a big chunk out of the apple, but a lot of people haven't even bought the apple yet.
Mm,
Like, if you can't go to the store and get it, Instacart, I'm sure there's an apple tree somewhere around there, go find it. But you just have to take that step. And it doesn't have to be the biggest step in the world. It can be less than a foot. Go down a step, circle back, have somebody to hold you accountable, reach out to one of us. There's gonna be times where you're reaching too far for what you can actually reach right now, and you gotta correct yourself. Don't let it get you down. Just be like, oh, I stepped a little too far, let me circle back and figure out what's going to work, and just love on myself. Starts with you. And like I said, for me it was community, faith, and finding an outlet. And that's been the three things that changed my life, man, and can't shout it enough. And can't see myself doing anything different, So we're walking in the steps that I feel like I was born to walk. And I'll have relapses where I fall into depression, anxiety. Hope I don't, but just speaking from real experience, it's not a one and done. Sometimes you got to reheat, and that's okay. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just do what you got to do.
hmm Now, when you experience these relapses
Mhm.
of going back into depression, how do you now handle it?
Even like when I struggle with depression, I don't want to leave the house. I make myself. Even when I get nauseous and I tend to like feel like I'm gonna throw up all the time when I'm anxious or depressed. So one of the big things will be like, I don't want to leave the house, so I make myself, and I communicate with whoever I'm hanging out with. Hey, going through this, but need to be around. So see you in 5, and just having those people you can go to that go through the same seasons and they understand you. And you'll never know who around you struggles until you open up about it. So my best friend struggles with it and never knew it until I opened up about it. He's like, dude, I go through that too. I was like, oh, no crap. Should have
hmm
asked earlier. So it's a process and everybody walks a little bit differently. But when it comes to relapsing into mental health, it's make yourself uncomfortable because you're just chasing being comfortable. And sometimes to get comfortable, you have to be uncomfortable for a little while. And it's going to suck at first, but just take those baby steps. Sometimes it's not going to work, but the energy that you put in and the chances you take are the only way you're going to get better.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. My best friend of however many years didn't know until I said something.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I kind of want to end my life. And he's like, what? I was like, have you not picked up on that? He's like, no, because no one knows. Because
Yeah.
a lot of us who struggle can put on a very good mask.
Oh, bro, I mask it up all the way. You won't know unless I
Hmm.
tell you.
Yep. Yeah. One of my uh, weaknesses is that you can pretty much read my face pretty well. You can read my face pretty well, is what I meant to say. But no one knew just because I tried to be the happy guy all the time. And if something bothered me or I was in that slump, I would try to hide. I would just not show up in public. I'd be like, hey, I'm busy, be in bed all day.
Yeah, that'd be me. I do the same thing. It's like, hey, you gonna got to eat? And it's like, no, I've got to go chase a chicken or something. Gotta
Hmm.
gotta go change a tire for a lawnmower I don't own.
Yep.
Gotta do something stupid that doesn't revolve around me being around people. Go dig up some concrete somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like I just had to be honest with myself and cut the crap and call myself out. Like, dude, this isn't okay. You're making excuses that don't even make sense. Everybody, they're going to start picking up on it immediately. Um, so one of the things for me with one of my friends that I kept making excuses with is I turned on Find My Friends on my iPhone, and now they can see like you're not busy. Like, I mean, I work from home, but they tend to know my schedule. So where you at? Can't pull the I'm in Atlanta card anymore.
Mm,
So they'll know. And just set yourself up to be able to call yourself out and be comfortable with that. And even when people call you out, that's a good time to practice. If you messed up on something, you probably get anxious when people call you out on it, but just just be okay with it. Practice breathing and accept the criticism. Move
yeah.
on. Don't
Yeah.
ponder on what you could have done better. Just set yourself up for next time not to make that mistake if you were in the wrong, or if you weren't in the wrong, address it and move forward.
Hmm.
Don't let anxiety eat you.
Yeah. Because it will.
Hmm. Oh, it will 100%. It's like Jaws.
Hmm.
But
Now, um, when you first called yourself out on it, like when you kind of took a step back and you were like, "Listen, man, you're making excuses that don't even make sense." Did that come way later?
yeah, it
Yeah.
did. Yeah, like I would say even in the past year, and been going. I'm 23 now. Started struggling when I was 16. So it. I used to, whenever somebody texts me, "Hey, we need to talk," even if it was like just them wanting to talk, I would assume I did something, and it would eat me up. But now it's just like, I mean, it's uncomfortable, but you just have to analyze. Did I do anything wrong? No. Cool. They just want to talk and motivate yourself, hype yourself up. You could be your biggest hype man. Um, it's all about just fostering yourself and realizing that you're not invincible. We're all mortal, and we're all very vulnerable. If you look at human beings, it's amazing that we stay alive for as long as we do because we're so vulnerable. You poke yourself with a needle, it's going to make you bleed. You get hit by a car, you're breaking bones. Like you fall down the stairs, you break some bones. Mentally, like we're very, very, very vulnerable. So learning that early on would have been crucial for me. Like I'm not invincible. It's okay not to be good at these things. And I really think that learning that for myself has been a big game changer. And it's almost like being on this podcast right now is very therapeutic because I'm able to address things and I'm able to talk about the things that I still struggle with. And when I learn to call myself out, it's like, hey, this reaction shouldn't have happened. You shouldn't have done this. Let's move forward from that instead of like wanting to punch yourself in the face. And not that I'll like physically punch myself, but mentally, and recluse myself and just get further into depression. There, you have to learn to give yourself some grace and be positive about what you're going through. And to a certain extent, you have people around you that are willing to walk through that with you, and be selective about that circle that you put around yourself, because it's so easy to just let anybody in and then you get hurt. So be selective, love the person that you're becoming, and address it. Like if you need to fix some things, don't be ashamed of it. Don't be afraid of it. Just walk through it. The worst thing that can happen is you step back, and you have something else that you need to address, and then you just turn it into a positive thing. That's how it's worked for me anyway. And I find myself smiling more than frowning now. Like somebody's like, dude, you're way too much. And I'm like, yeah, I know. It's cool. I'll work on it. Sorry. Um, so just addressing those things, caring about other people's preferences and personalities, and um, learning how to tame yourself. Like I'm a very energetic person, so I'm a lot to deal with, and learning that not everybody's that way, and some people are introverted, and I got to pipe it down every once in a while, and got to cut the jokes, and um, just that's another way to care for people and love on them, is caring for their mental sanity and realizing that everybody has a different personality. Some people are similar, but nobody's going to be the exact same. And you just learn to love, learn to care, and learn to live and be around people. And when they're positive to you, you could be positive to yourself. And if you find someone being super negative around you and just being a negative force in your life, cut it out. And doesn't mean you have to like block them from your phone or anything, but don't give them your time. If it's dragging you down, that's exactly what it's doing. It's not positive. Therefore, get out of it. Right. So just simple techniques to clear your head, clear your mind, and take care of yourself, starting with you. Just take that little step, get you that apple. Don't take the biggest bite, and just set yourself up for success. Don't overdo it on the first try. Then you get burnt out, and then you find yourself in a deeper headspace. So take care of yourself one step at a time.
Yeah. I think something you just said, something that really it it helped me when I realized it, but for pretty much my entire life, I just kind of assumed everyone was the same.
Mm.
Just because, there's like almost 8 billion people on the planet. And I guess for some reason, my brain was like, yeah, everyone, there's no way there's that many, you know, different versions of a human out there. We have to all be similar. And that in turn made me kind of look internally and go like, well, then why are you struggling and the person next door isn't?
Yeah.
So when I finally realized like, oh, we're relatively similar, but like we're not, that's kind of, that definitely helped me in terms of working towards A, who I wanted to be, and B, working with my mental health, because I was just kind of like, yeah, we're all very different. Like this idea that we're all clones of each other can really set you back, because then you start comparing yourself to everyone and you're like, why am I not on the same level as this guy?
Yeah. Dude, yes. So often, whether it's with podcasting or personal life, keeping up with the Joneses, I find myself not doing that as much anymore, which is wild. Like, I just don't care what people are driving or how big their house is or anything like that. Like, I'm just focusing on myself personally. And it's easier said than done, but just years of correcting myself on, wow, that's a cool Tesla. Done. Oh, I
Mhm.
need that. No, that's unhealthy. You're always going to be unhappy if you keep chasing after everything. Like, who cares? Like, be happy with what you have. You have a roof over your head. You're doing pretty good. A lot of people don't have that. You have a car to drive. Wow, a lot of people don't have that. That's really a luxury. Look at third world countries. Look at people in our country. There's people in California, New York, here in Nashville, Atlanta, that don't have anything. If you're able to listen to this podcast right now and your phone is charged and you found your headphones this morning because you had a place to put them, you're doing pretty daggum good. So start with that. Start
Yep.
with the fact that you have luxuries. You're able to listen to a podcast right now. A friend of mine is about to come up from a war-stricken country. 12 miles from his house, there was literally a war going on. Like, you know, it could be worse. And I'm not saying that to make you feel bad about complaining or thinking that your mental health isn't important, but there's always going to be something a little bit more negative than what you're going through. And the sooner you realize that, I feel like it's almost a positive thing. It's almost a sigh of relief. I don't care how bad that sounds. It's true. Correct me if I'm wrong. You just go, dang, like I'm kind of thankful that I'm able to use this microphone and these headphones and this computer and have this conversation and just be a voice. I'm thankful for the sticky notes that are sitting over here to where I could take a note and remind myself for something. I'm thankful for my phone bill being paid or my emergency sitting here quarantined. Um, I'm thankful that I'm not dying of COVID. I'm thankful that it's just here and whatever, you know? So there's always going to be something worse going on in somebody else's life. And that's something that we can just look for. If someone's struggling around you, try to help them. Take
Mhm.
your mind off take your mind off of your mind. Help other people. And that's a positive thing you can use to build. It's almost a tool for yourself and for that person. You're killing two birds with one stone. You're helping defeat the battle that's going on inside your mind. You're helping defeat whatever battle your peer is going through. You're building into your community. You're hopefully causing a ripple effect, kind of like the domino effect where dominoes just start falling. Hope that other people follow. So I know that's probably like a little ramble, but it just makes sense. It's like just start a positivity movement. Smile at somebody. Somebody cusses you out in public. Had some dude, apparently I was following too close or something. He pulled over and started cussing me out, flicking me off the other day. And I was like, I don't do nothing. But I just went, hey, like it's 1 a.m. Sorry. Kind of tired. Probably shouldn't be driving, but I wasn't that tired, just FYI, before people start shunning me. But it stuff happens and you just have to bounce back and not take it personal and find a way to make it positive.
Yeah. And that's not to say like there's like a fine line when you're thinking about, oh, something could always be worse, because you can, like, it's definitely a positive thing to look at it that way, and it can actually really help you. And then if you go too far on the other side, you go, well, then my problems don't matter at all.
Correct. Yeah.
You got to find that balance where it's like, yeah, something could always be worse, but I should still address what's going on. It's
Yeah,
just not the end of the world.
for sure. It's like if you're suicidal, like give yourself a reason to live almost.
Hmm.
I feel like that's bottom of the barrel right there is like, oh, I don't want to live. Like I can't think of anything that's been more detrimental to me than the seasons that I've had where I'm just like, I don't see a point in living. Find reasons to live. Like it's not going to come to you most of the times. You have to look for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was very fortunate where the last time I tried to take my life, the reasons kind of popped into mind like
Hmm.
immediately.
Well,
Yeah, it because you look for them and you search for them for so long, and you're like, oh, there's no reason to, and then eventually, like, it's just weird how life works like
mhm.
that. Like it's like you feel nothing, you feel numb, and then right at the last second, it goes, oh wait, there is something to live for. So get out of, jump, go, stop what you're doing right now.
Yeah,
There's so much more to live for. It's it's interesting how it works that way.
yeah. And I had this dude named Kevin Hines on my show, I guess a few months ago now, and he jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge, kill himself, and right
Mm,
when his hands left the rail, he realized he didn't want to die, and he didn't die. And now he lives to tell his story, to live another day and be here tomorrow, and has some amazing resources and it's wild. Like if you hear people that have tried to take their life and they end up surviving, they're so thankful and grateful, man.
yeah.
And not to say you don't relapse and want to do it again or try. And every time you survive, guarantee you'll be probably be a whole lot happier than you would be dead. because you can actually realize you're happy or you're sad or you need to address something, or maybe this is a bigger issue than you thought and you did something without thinking. And so much goes into play. That's why I say die by suicide instead of commit suicide, because some people are so far into depression that it just seems like the only option.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but there's always a reason to live and there's always someone willing to help you. And I feel like that's why we're having this discussion right now. It's because we've had those thoughts and we want to help people through it. Let
Yeah.
somebody know they're not that alone. Somebody out there is struggling. There are millions of people out there struggling with this. Mental health is one of the biggest topics in the world. So if you think you're alone in this, I could tell you with a 100% accuracy and positivity, you are not alone and you're going to get through this. You're going to be okay. We're here with you. There's someone else out there that's willing to talk through this with you, want to have a conversation. There are whole organizations with thousands of people waiting to take a phone call from you. And sometimes a phone call is all you need to change your life. So that's why, like Suicide Hotline, Death to Life, which is a really cool organization, Anthem of Hope, Heart Support. There's so many resources out there. There's thousands, hundreds of thousands, I would even say, of people that literally just want to talk to you and make sure you're okay and help you get through whatever you're going through. Even financially, there are churches and stuff that have budgets for things like that. You're not alone. People want to help you.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. If you are listening and you like, because a lot of people are going through it right now. It's just, if you're listening, like, please get help. Like, you're not, you're, it's tough, right? Because you know it. I know it too. Like, when you're in that mindset, it's like you are so convinced that no one else knows what you're dealing with. And maybe they don't, but you're so convinced also that no one gives a crap.
Mm.
It's like, well, that's definitely not true. It's like reach out to either of us on DM. I'm on my phone all the time. Even though I preach don't go on your phone too much, screen time, moderate it. I am literally on my phone all the time.
Easier
Just,
said than done.
yes, yeah, way easier said than done. That thing is it's like a drug.
Yeah, it scientifically is proven to be. There's a documentary on Netflix about that, which was really good. And it is a drug.
Mhm.
Also feeds into mental health issues. Staying on the screen too much,
Oh
comparing
my
yourself to
god.
people. I actually want to figure out what that documentary is called. I think
Is
it's
that the
Social
social
Dilemma.
dilemma?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Social Dilemma on Netflix. 100% recommend that. And then Brene Brown has a really cool special on Netflix. Great resource, talking about being courageous and being confident and really just being bold, going after it, man. And we could talk all day about resources, but whatever you're struggling with, just even go to Google and say resources for depression, resources for anxiety, resources for financial hardship, resources for hundreds of thousands of free resources waiting for you. Just be cautious on what you pick. Some people have exterior agendas trying to get your money or trying to con you into something, but even there are people paying for ad space just to tell you that you're loved. So not everybody's out there to try to harm you. Know that there's hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people willing to talk with you right now. And that's important to know because tomorrow is worth living. I can confidently say that. You can confidently say that, I hope. And if you're listening to this podcast right now, it's a very good starting point. It's a very good little step that you can take. And hearing conversations that are meaningful and passionate and with curated content just for you, struggling with mental health. We're not talking about much else than that. It's just like this might be that first step for you in hearing that, okay, I need to address this a little more. Then you hear another episode, you're like, okay, now I really need to do it. And it's just you keep going, and then this becomes a resource for hundreds of thousands of people. And that doesn't happen without you, the listener, going in and sharing it with people and loving on people, and even just using it for yourself, subscribing, reviewing, you help save lives when you do that. And it may seem too far fetched, like, oh, this ain't going to save a life, but I promise you, podcasts save lives every day just from meaningful conversations, showing people that they have a reason to live. So you could do your part. Maybe you want to do what we've talked about today and just care for somebody. Share this episode with them, share the podcast with them, love on them. Say, hey, was thinking about you today, heard this, and just thought I'd share it with you. Thought it might be a resource for you. It's a big, big thing. So underrated, man, but it's so true. Just be a light and just send a link. It's like, that's a step. It's actually a big step. So if you take that, you're already on the right track. Write it down. Here's what I did today, whatever today's date is, April 9th, 2021. I did this. That's step one, done. You're on your journey. So if you're starting your journey today with us, you know, good luck. We're rooting for you. We love you. And we're here to see you through it. So, you know, just keep pursuing greatness, pursue positivity, love yourself, give yourself some grace and patience, and take your vitamin C, you know, take care of yourself.
Great advice, man. Yeah. Speaking of resources and podcasts, where can my viewers find you, man?
If you just go to Google and type in Trevor Talks, or Instagram at Trevor Talks podcast, you can easily find it. I'm the dude with the microphone in front of him with the late night style branding. Super, super proud of that branding. I love it. But man, super easy wherever you listen to podcasts, or even if you just go to Google and type in Trevor Talks, it'll pop up.
Love it, man. And I will put all of those links down below. Trevor, thank you for coming on, man. This has been a pleasure. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on my show.
Man, thank you so much for having me, and for everybody listening, thank you for listening to this show. It's been a resource for me to be a part of it, and I wouldn't be here if you guys didn't listen and give Harry the listens he needs to keep this thing going. So thank y'all for being a part of this. It was therapeutic for me, and I hope it was for you as well. And thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, shout out to the listeners, man. Thank you for giving me those streams. Yeah, you're the goats, man. A boy needs it. And to all my listeners, again, I will see you next time.